Greetings, fellow classic retro fans. Dave Sundstrom is known by thousands as a knowledgeable and unique pop culture historian. His many YouTube followers are a testament to this and cherish Dave's videos and streaming events because his main focus is, thankfully, always set on the good stuff, which also accurately serves as his descriptive slogan. Watch any one of Dave's YouTube entries and you'll not only see and hear what I mean, but it'll give a sense as to why he's so popular. Dave's calm storytelling and demeanor instantly puts the viewer at ease, as does his expert information, opinion, and production style. Dave's a friend, and you can't deny his humble ability to make things regarding pop culture and classic television sound as though you're hearing from your best friend in the world. This is Dave's appeal, which is, at least for me and his followers, a welcome break from the chaotic times that we all currently live in. I used to tell folks that listening to Dave was like taking a vacation from the world, which would likely explain his immense popularity. I believe that after hearing this conversation and exploring his channel, you will likely agree. Enjoy! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the That's how you start out strong. Let's try that again.
Okay.
I'm nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast the legendary Dave Sundstrom.
Hey, legendary is a bit strong, don't you think?
No, actually. But it's funny because it's like this is the most relaxed I think I've ever been conducting an interview.
Well, it better be. We're pals.
And that's part of it. But what's really funny is how I screwed up your introduction.
Well, it sounded like when I heard that introduction, the one that probably folks won't hear, it sounded like something had actually literally fallen off your desk or table and hit the floor. I was a little concerned for you.
Yeah, that was my consciousness. I'm going to keep that.
Okay, I love it.
People will love that. I don't want them to think I'm that perfect, Dave. And you know, it's been an interesting ride, this podcast. Speaking of rides, I liken it to a thrill ride sometimes.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, right? This game we play, whether it's YouTube or a podcast or a combination, it's a freaking roller coaster ride, my friend.
Well, and the thing is, you are firsthand aware of what it's like to interview a celebrity, especially,
sure,
someone that you've been a fan of for forever.
Right.
And then suddenly you're on the phone with them and it's time to click. And I have been really, really blessed. I would say every single one, save maybe one or two out of the almost 60 interviews I've done with these people. They've just been so gracious and so wonderful and so welcoming and down to earth and all the things you would hope for,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we figure out, right, as we have these conversations. These are people just like you and I. Their careers have taken them down different paths, and many of them have achieved great levels of fame in terms of being celebrities and being on television shows, movies, and in the world of music. And yet, once you visit with them, it's like talking to an old friend sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I added the sometimes because I've only done a handful compared to what you've done, Pat. But my first one, I gotta say, was with Richard Klein, and what a gentleman this guy was. Just so cool and so accommodating. And he'd watched the video that I'd done on him, and he was just the best. And a few months later, I had a chance to do an interview with Andrew Ferris from NXS. And I caught him at the tail end of a day where he'd been doing a bunch of interviews. He didn't know anything about me. This had been set up by another company, and it was a different experience. So Nothing against Andrew. I'm still a big fan of him and the band. But it was a very different experience than the one that I had with Richard.
Right. Right. And you got to be ready. But I tell you, it's that thrill ride thing. I mean, I love being scared, Dave. I don't like being scared for my life, but there is this feeling, and, my listeners have heard me talk about this before, and that is that 10 minutes, that 15 minutes prior to the actual interview with Kent McCord.
Right.
Who is the first thing you think of when you wake up that morning? Kent McCord, and then you're there. You're Kent McCord all the way up until you're talking to Kent McCord. And that last 10 minutes is just like, oh, God, what's he going to be like? And Adam 12, of course, you're...
Well, if he gets a little sniffy, if he were, and I know he didn't, but if he were to have gotten a little sniffy with you, you just throw Galactica 1980 in his face and you're done.
Yeah. Oh, he's very humble in that regard. and actually in every regard.
Right. What a great guy. Totally a really wonderful feller. Everything that I've done a video or two about him, and everything that I've learned about Kent is he's a heck of a sweet guy, and you certainly brought out the best of him in your interview, Pat.
Well, and thanks, Dave. But the one thing that I wasn't really prepared for that turned out to be a pleasant surprise for me, so much for my research, was to find out that he was at one time the president of the Screen Actors Guild.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm talking to him right while the strike is happening.
Yep.
And he's like, you want to talk to me about Adam 12? How about the rights of these actors? And I'm like, oh, my God. Yes, actually, let's go there, Ken.
Yeah, sometimes you have to let those interviews take you go in whatever direction. We have an agenda. Clearly, we have a love for these old-time TV shows and the programs of our youth. But to a guy like Kent it's work for them. And I remember that interview, and I think he handled it with a lot of grace, as did he.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, buddy. And by the way, I did not call him Ken.
No, I know you did.
Here's the best one, though. Here's the best thing that's happened, and it's happened a couple times. This one is most memorable because it was Anson Williams. And you put in the call, and you wait for the answer, and it's Anson Williams. Hello? And I'm like, hi, Anson. And he says, hello? And I went, Anson! Hello? And that's when I'm suddenly realizing he can't hear me.
Yeah.
And then I look down and notice that the preamp for the microphone I use is off. Thank God. That had happened once before, and I had no idea why it was happening. I literally had to let the person hang up so I could figure it out, to call him back and tell him, oh, God, I'm sorry, I didn't push this button. But you want to talk about adding a little more thrill to your thrill ride.
Right. Yeah.
Start it like that.
Not the best way to start, but at least with Anson, you knew what the problem was immediately. That's a good thing.
Well, exactly. And it turned out being one of my favorite interviews because...
it's one of the last before you went on break here recently, and it was definitely one of your finest. How can you go wrong when you're talking with Patsy Weber?
Well, exactly. And it could have been an unplayful Patsy Weber. It could have been an unfriendly Anson Williams who was having a bad day or whatever. But the fact that he got into it by giving me a hard time, I just went, oh, now this I can roll with.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Anson is just that career he's had, not just in front of the screen, but behind the screen. The stories that he had to tell, it was great. Yeah,
this has been a pleasure. I'm working on revitalizing it and getting some more.
I was thrilled to hear that you are still in the podcast business, my friend, because you're one of the best out there. And I think you do. You have a real talent for putting people at ease and just letting them often move the conversation where they want to. And as a result, they're just so much fun to listen to because you never know where they go.
It's true. I mean, there's liner notes, but otherwise it's like, here we go. We're off and running.
Yep. Let's see.
And
Let's see where this takes us.
Yeah. And, of course, fortunately, like YouTube, there's not a lot of competition out there. So, when you say I'm one of the best, I'll believe you. Out of 6 million podcasts, Dave, if you want to bestow that honor on me.
Absolutely, Pat. You are one of the one of the finest.
Don't choke on your words there, Dave.
Yeah, you are one of the finest, my friends. And a little Diet Coke went down the wrong way as I was saying that.
Yes. Look, I have maybe 2 or 3 listeners that don't know who you are. And so let me explain to you 2 or 3 that don't know Dave. I don't really know where to begin. Because the story's deep and you're a deep person. And the thing is that it's depth of nothing but charm and integrity and friendliness and supportiveness, and how many more adjectives I could use to describe how great this man is, folks. What has happened is like I've had my struggles dealing with YouTube and my feelings towards YouTube.
All of us have.
I thought I was the only one.
No, sir.
Wait a minute. Well, according to the algorithms, I'm the only one. And so zero in on Pat. But no, the fact is I've gotten to know people like you. And by the way, the Retro Pals, we had this thing where we'd get together and do your live streams, the Retro Paloozas, of which I'm a proud 4th member of. First member being you, Dave, the Grand Poobah.
Well, I think we're all equally retro. There's no hierarchy in the Retro Pals. The 4 of us are, we are brothers from different mothers, and it's so much fun when we get a chance to get together and have those conversations.
Right. And I admire these other 2 cats too. We're talking Barry King from BK on the Air and Bob Thrash Pondo Ponds, who, guess what, Dave? The next 2 podcasts are going to be with those guys.
Oh, I can't wait to listen to them. I love both of those fellers, and I think the world of both of them in terms of their, it's one thing to love nostalgic television, and it's another thing to have that deep, deep knowledge that both of them have when it comes to, and I say nostalgic television, pop culture, right? You can sit down with them and you throw out a topic and boom, conversation for hours. And the funny thing is it's just this shared knowledge, right? That we've all had these same experiences, even though we've done different things throughout our lives. It's what kind of ties us together. And it's just so much fun to have those conversations. Great guys.
Which is why it kind of hit me as here's a no-brainer, Pat. Get your knowledgeable friends on. The ones you're really close with. Your Retro Pals,
I've been waiting for the invite, Pat, for years. You don't know how many nights I've literally cried myself to sleep thinking, when is my turn?
Believe me. And then I wake up at 3 in the morning with this heavy-duty guilt trip thinking, I bet you Dave's expecting me to ask him to be on this dang thing. He's just got to get a few more subscribers, and I'll consider it. Because look, folks, if you don't know Dave Sundstrom, he is a YouTube titan. And I know you're going to play this down, Dave. I know because you're humble as humble can get. But the fact of the matter is, you got the plaque. You are over 1 million subscribers. Matter of fact, what is the last tally of subscribers?
Well, it's not over 1 million, Pat. It's not over 100,000 is all. So
what?
I'm almost to approximately 150,000.
You're telling me I've been throwing extra zeros on this?
You've been telling people 1 million. Well, God bless you. But the 1 million is when you get the gold plaque.
That's it.
The silver plaque's at 100,000, and I got that one 2021, I'd say. And so it's interesting. The pandemic really had a way. People were, they were trapped at home and they were looking for things to watch. And it really provided a boost, I think, to many YouTube creators. People were looking for things to watch, whether at their desk or from their sofa. And my channel grew exponentially, very rapidly during the pandemic. Now, since hitting the 100,000 mark, 3 years have passed and we're almost to another 50,000 subscribers. I think we're 148,000 and something right now, almost to 149. But it's a slower go as a couple of things have happened. One, the pandemic has eased, thank heavens, right?
Yeah.
And two, there's been the emergence of other forms of, social media sites that are centered around video. TikTok in particular is taking eyeballs away from YouTube. And Instagram has their own version of that, as does Facebook with Threads, I think. So there's lots of ways for folks to watch videos, and their attention span's getting a little bit shorter, but also the eyeballs just coming to YouTube. And even though they've incorporated YouTube Shorts, the eyeballs coming to YouTube have diminished, which is why I think you'll see that lots of creators are saying things aren't quite as robust as they once were. But I think it's a fair trade-off, get rid of the pandemic for fewer viewers.
Well, and you got to hand it to me for my math, because easily 150,000 can be rounded up to 1 million. And everybody knows that. Okay?
Well, it rounds up. It rounds up for sure.
Yeah. Boy.
I can't wait. I'm projected to hit that million mark at this current pace, right around my 70th birthday. So I'm looking forward. And when I do, Pat, you know what? I'm flying you into Kaysville, Utah, Salt Lake City. I'll pick you up from the airport, and we're gonna have a big party. You'll get Thrash and Barry and all sorts of other folks that have been just huge members of the community, and we're going to have, when that day comes, we're going to have a huge celebration.
Well, that sounds like we should do it at maybe 500,000.
That's still probably, 65-ish. We can do that.
We can still party a little. Oh, my gosh. And that's the thing also, that, as I said, or if I haven't said, the top benefit of me doing what I do has been the fact that I've been able to gain friends of quality such as yourself. And that also trickles down to your followers, who I benefit from being your friend and having your support. And it actually translates into people following me.
Oh, absolutely. We have shared communities at this point, right?
Yeah.
And, it's like, what are they called? Are they Venn diagrams where the circles overlap?
Right.
For certain, there's this shared community, your community, my community. There's this group of people that really enjoy both types of content that we provide. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know some of those people. And, something that I truly, when I started publishing videos to YouTube, never really thought about a community, right? Or, like you mentioned, close friendships. I can still remember, Pat, the very first golden age of TV video that I watched. And it was that video that you made where you did the Get Smart theme. And I was blown away by, you're a talented musician. That's not blowing smoke up anybody's keister to say Pat McCormick is just a fantastic guitarist. And watching that video, and at that point, I had no intention of reaching out to, I don't know who reached out to who first, but watching that video, I just was so impressed with what you were doing and what you were trying to do with the channel. I think I reached out to you to have you show up or to interview you on my channel, and so impressed with that. And it's been so much fun to get to know you, the man behind that. You've kind of pivoted a little in terms of what you do on YouTube and into becoming more of a podcaster. But I would say that pivot has been a tremendous amount of growth too. And it's just been so much fun to see you develop as a creator / podcaster.
Well, thanks, Dave, for everything. I will say that pivot was medically induced. I mean, really, that formula of doing the instrumental arrangements of these classic TV themes that I did, which also gave me an opportunity to compose. I didn't. Yeah. I put my own compositions smack dab in the middle of these things. The creamy filling, we used to call it, and
the good stuff.
It was such a pleasure, and I was so motivated. And because I was motivated, I was inspired, and because I was inspired, I was creative, and all of that goes along with it. What a buzz! And next thing I know, I can't hear my wife's voice. And I'm like, what? Huh? Every other, what? Huh? And I'm thinking, maybe I should have my ears checked.
Yeah.
Yeah, get smart. Actually, out of the 45 years that I've been playing music, it was that piece and the recording of that piece, which, by the way, is all me. When you hear my music, even though I have prop guys there playing along with me, it's actually all me. And so many hours with headphones on and drummers.
Right.
I have to blame those two cats and the archaic way of monitoring ourselves on stage during the 80s and 90s, which was volume and speakers pointed straight up your face, straight up your nose, straight down your ear, every way possible. And that was the era that I was in. So it all made sense that my ears were going to go south, and Get Smart was the one that did it.
That's where you noticed it, huh?
Yes, like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
Because they have this thing called loop recording, and loop recording basically lets you pick out 16 bars or however much of a portion that you want to record overdub on. Right. In my case, that would be the soloing section, where it would automatically go back through and loop that same section. And every time it would re-record on a new track that which you have just played. And I was on such a roll, Dave. I went for 4 hours straight doing that. Got done and was like, I can't wait to move to that next section. Tomorrow morning, here I go. Same thing. 4 hours straight. And that was with some volume in the studio, and I thought I was protected, but I wasn't. And after that second day, the ringing, the tinnitus, that's not nothing new. We've all experienced loud concerts and that ringing that happens, and it always goes away. And it didn't. So it's, again, I've had close friends say, hey, poor Pat, you'd do it all again, wouldn't you? And the answer is yes. So that's just, hey, I would do it all again, because I've had that opportunity to do that and somewhat build a legacy within the music that, sure, I'll trade in these ears. Besides, I think I did it from body surfing too much. I don't know.
Who's to say, right? Who's to say? I mean, clearly your music career had to have a hand in it, but who's to say what would have happened if you hadn't?
Yeah. Well, like you said, and thanks to Christian Taylor, who, through me as my right-hand man, has just been like,
CT, yeah.
You got to pivot. Keep going. And so, why is this interview all of a sudden all about me? See, folks, this is Dave Sundstrom, okay? The most unselfish man I've ever known, and the kind of guy that can literally turn the conversation right back towards you and make you feel important. And this is your technique, Dave. And it's not really a technique, because your videos, which, please, everybody, go to Dave Sundstrom's channel and check this out, because the uniqueness of this man for making these videos that make you feel instantly like you're back on the comfy couch in that era when there were literally no worries. Not that there weren't any worries, but that's the thing, Dave. You put us all back on the comfy couch or the recliner, and that TV set tuned to our favorite shows, and you deliver a message about these things that it's so talented because you've got this formula. And the formula, it just works. It works in that it's instant feel good. You have that gift.
That's kind of you to say. I thought you were going to say that I have the talent for putting people to sleep with my video. People have told me that in the comments. They fire you up right when I'm trying to get to sleep, and your voice and the tone you take just instantly sends me off to La La Land. But, it makes me happy to hear that because that's the goal, right? It may not have originally been my goal. I don't know if I had a goal initially as to what I wanted to accomplish with my channel. I just thought it was fun to create videos and tell little stories. But what has, over time, as I've conversed with people through the comments section, talked with people through other mediums as well, I've come to realize that, there's a lot out there that in this world that doesn't make us feel good, that contributes to the chaos and the noise of the world around us. And if my little videos can take us back to a simpler time, can kind of put the mind at ease and just provide a respite from everything that is going on these days. The world is a tumultuous place. Heck, it's an honor to be able to make those kind of videos and to actually have someone be willing to spend 5, 6, 7 minutes with me as I reminisce about, whatever, Gilligan's Island, Star Trek, or whatever.
Oh, sorry, Dave. What were we talking about?
There you go. See, I did it to you, Pat. Told you I have a talent.
He's a living lullaby, folks. But it's true. In that sense, you are the voice of ease, of calm, and the way that you describe what you are doing in your videos, which, of course, you're basically just doing narrative. But it doesn't need to, you don't have to be on screen because your voice colors what your creative output is so well. I mean,
yeah, I think it's best I stay off screen.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way because.
No, I know what you meant, Pat. But I think, you hear those folks that have a voice for radio, or a face for radio. I feel like I'm one of those people, and I really value the format that YouTube provides. That, there's talking head videos on YouTube, right? And I think probably if we were to look at YouTube, the majority of the videos are talking head videos, but there's another type of video, which is what I do primarily. I mean, every once in a while I'll pop in or you'll see an image of me in my videos, but mostly they're faceless videos because I think people click on the video, not necessarily, while we try from time to time share a moment of my life, a memory, something that was valuable to me that is related to whatever show I'm talking about. Primarily, they're clicking on that video because it was a TV show, it was a movie, or whatever that meant something to them as well. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with community and with our relationship as retro pals. It's the shared experience. So I get to have a shared experience with someone. And that format, that faceless video format, is one that allows me to be, this is a hobby for me. This has never been a career. I think it's a good way to approach YouTube because it is, like I said earlier, it's a volatile roller coaster ride. But the faceless video format allows me to be able to create, a couple videos each week, 2-3 videos each week, and to connect with people with some level of regularity and consistency, as opposed to that person that goes and says, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and does 1 or 2 videos and then loses steam because of the amount of work and editing that's required sometimes for more complex videos.
I have no idea.
And you know what I'm talking about there, right?
This is all alien to me.
As a huge admirer of the videos that you did on your channel prior to becoming a podcaster, I know you know what I mean in terms of, and to your credit, you weren't one of those guys that did one or two videos. Anyone that hits Pat McCormack's Golden Age of Television channel on YouTube is going to be exposed to hundreds and hundreds of extremely well-produced videos that put Dave Sundstrom's videos to shame. And it's one of those weird ironies of YouTube. I'm serious. I mean this. I'm not trying to, I don't understand how some channels, because literally, let's not talk about my channel for a minute. There are, in our niche, right? Nostalgic entertainment.
Right.
Literally,
right.
There are hundreds of channels out there that are being created by using AI. And I personally, the conspiracy theorist in me, believes they're not even being created by people that really love the niche, but rather people that are just trying to make a quick buck. And those videos, some of them have millions of views. They'll put pictures in of, they'll be talking about one star and they'll have a picture of someone else. There's not a lot of love or care that goes into these videos that are getting slapped together, but they do have a decent headline and they may pick a decent thumbnail. And as a result, they're getting millions of views. Wow. There are those of us that are trying to really curate an experience for a viewer at YouTube that may want to go down memory lane with us and talk about these old timey TV shows. We struggle a bit more, and certainly, your channel is one of those things that there's just a treasure trove of great videos, great information, and so much fun to see your personality come through in those videos. So I didn't mean to flip it back on you again, but we may as well, because folks, Pat mentioned my channel. Hit his channel. There's so much good out there.
Oh, well, thanks, buddy. The check's in the mail.
You betcha, buddy.
But the fact is, I am a case study of just how cold and cruel
right.
YouTube can be to someone that puts, oh my gosh, I'm not exaggerating. We're talking thousands of hours of effort into hundreds and hundreds of videos with my face, because, part of me was, wouldn't it be great that if I could get in front of a camera and read a teleprompter? That's a skill I would really love to do. And in a sense, I actually did it. And in that way, I was like, I can do that. Now, with me reinventing the golden age of TV, it's not really reinventing. It's more like going back to the roots, which is to implement music back in. Thank you, ears. They've found a way around this. It won't be the hard rock guitar, because that's what did it. And so it's still going to be me playing and paying tribute to classic television themes with a story behind the theme, and actually focusing mainly on that theme, rather than just some kind of random interesting fact that I can find out doing tons of research about a TV show, and then getting down there, getting the costume on and shooting it and editing it. And oh my gosh, the amount of work.
Right.
I've not shied away from that. I like the work. As a matter of fact, anybody that doesn't like the work aspect of it isn't getting the right thing out of it. But there comes a point, there comes a time where, where did I hear this? Some friend of mine said, what was it? ROI.
Right, return on investment. Absolutely.
My financial advisor, Mr. Dave Sundstrom, which he also is, it's like,
Let's be clear. No, I am not your financial advisor.
And his number is...
I am a friend who may have had some experience in the industry that from time to time we converse.
Yes. And
all we do.
Frankly, it's not conversing. It's just Dave talking me off the ledge. He's like, come on, right. Pat. Come back into the building, Pat. Come on.
It'll come back.
Don't jump.
And it has. And it has, right?
It sure has. No complaints. Knock on wood, all of the above.
Yep.
Oh,
Right.
my gosh. Well, and that's the thing. Like, Dave's no idiot. I mean, he's extremely educated. You're teaching as well right now.
That's correct. I'm now an adjunct instructor at a local community college, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that.
Is that a surprise, folks? Is that a surprise, Dave Sundstrom fans? All of them right now are going, no. Matter of fact, how do I sign up for his class, In finance. Yeah, no, that's not what it is. What is it? What is the subject matter, Dave?
Well, the department I work for is the Business Administrative Services Department. So there is a finance class there, but there's a lot of different classes that I end up coaching people on.
Yeah. Yeah, and what a great coach. What a great coach. You've been a coach to me. And again, it's been so valuable. The beauty of it is that you strike up friendships, like with these Retropalooza buddies, the other two I have not met in person, but they're going to be friends for life. And Dave, I know you're going to be my friend for life because I forced you into it and you can't get away. But we got to meet in person.
That's right. We got to hang out at CroftCon. Man, I sure wish the Sid and Marty Croft people reached out to me. They have an official channel now. They reached out to me probably a month ago now, because they were doing during the weekend, they were doing like a live stream of Croft shows, and they asked if I'd help promote it. And so I did. I did a little community post, but what a great experience that was. I would sure love I know that was difficult for Derek to put on, but that was a fun experience. We need to figure out something else where we can hang out again, because I had a blast that day.
Well, and didn't you get the feeling, and as I did, that this is likely a one and done,
Yeah, exactly. What a wonderful opportunity it was to actually, and I credit you. Thanks for making it happen, to be able to pose with both Sid and Marty. That'll never happen again.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. And I don't know how profitable it was for Derek. We're talking about my friend Mr. Zemrak at the Orinda Theater, who hosted the CroftCon. But, through that, I think a lot of connections were made. I was able to I didn't make any connections that day, other than with my friends Wesley Ure and Kathy Coleman, just because they're my loves.
Oh, what wonderful people. I got to tell you, before you go any further, Wesley reached out to me about 2-3 months ago and just thanked me for the videos. And that just meant the world. What a kind person. It happens from time to time where you have someone, either the celebrity or maybe a family member of a celebrity who's passed, or reach out. But Wesley, if you're listening to this, if you listen to my podcast or my Pat McCormick podcast, thank you for doing that. You made not only my day, my week, you made my year, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a class act. I mean, he'll do stuff like, he'll put videos up and he'll have my retro TV trivia shirts on, to give me a little boost here and there. It's just like that little show of support. Pat, I'm thinking of you. And, Kathy and I hit it off. I pushed her book.
Yeah.
And she was so appreciative of that. And again, it's another sign of what Wesley's like, too. These people, and it just tells you what Sid Croft's like,
Right.
Just wonderful, down-to-earth people. And that was certainly a great event. That was great that your brother Steve could make it. And
yeah, that was fun. And then Tom, we got to meet the Hungry Jerk.
Yeah, Mr. McCluskey. I'm going to blow your name, Tom. Sorry. Dave will fix it right now.
Fixed.
But, again, opportunity for us to hook up like that. There's just not enough.
No.
But here we are. We're doing this right now, and that's a hookup as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. It's all because, Pat, let's tell the folks how this happened. You butt dialed me the other day.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, it has been a long time since I've talked to Pat. Little did I know I was going to get the honor of being on your podcast, but it all started with a butt dial.
Little did you know you'd have to listen in on some really awkward conversations between me and my wife. Yeah.
It was all worth it.
Pat's speaking with a lisp now. I don't know why. It's like, oh, honey, What do you think about maybe we should try to save some? These are my butt dials. Yes. I got to cut back on the yogurt. I'm telling you, man, that stuff. Well, like I said, I was like, wow, I've been calling Dave. I called him 30 times. Wow, I must really like that guy. Guilty as charged.
I'm getting so many spam calls these days. I was just grateful it was someone I knew.
Oh, my God. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And they're so obvious. I mean, I hope it's obvious to everybody, and I hope whoever falls victim to these people calling you by name and leaving a message and just like, oh, you're even leaving a message, and I know you're a scam. Unbelievable.
Yep. Well, they're all apparently very aware of my financial problems and want to help me refinance my credit and all these kind of things. I'm like, I don't know how they got my number.
Yeah. This is the last call before you're going to prison. No. How do you know? What? There's a lien on my dog? Wait a minute.
Exactly. Oh, no.
I don't even own a dog. Yes, Patrick. And we know the name of your dog, too.
They know it all. Yep, they're all knowing. Well,
enough of this. Let's go to the bright side again. Back to the bright side.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I love doing those live streams with you. I can't wait till we do another Retro Palooza because friends that are listening that are familiar with both me and Dave, and especially Dave, know how really good he is at hosting these multi-person live streams. That is a skill in and of itself, and I don't know if you get enough credit for how well you actually manage that, but you deserve it, and I know so because I tried it.
Yeah, they can be a bit of a challenge from time to time. There again, it goes back to the community piece. I think the reason live streams are so much fun to do is because it's this opportunity for, particularly if we're talking about our Retropaloozas that we've done, it's us to get together and have a conversation, but also then involve others in that conversation. And that's a ton of fun. You really can't beat that. And it's amazing how time flies, right? You're going and having these conversations, and the next thing you know, it's almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Have we really been live streaming that long? Crazy.
And look, it's a testament, though, to the quality of the audience, because these people are just wonderful and witty and humorous. Oh, no. I don't have any favorites, but there's folks out there that you know who you are that have become so supportive of me and, for Christ's sakes, anything I do. It's like, way to go, Pat. I'm like, but you don't understand. That was crap. But it was like, just that is enough to make me go, okay. You're not throwing in the towel yet. You got to keep going. Never quit. Never quit. They can't call you a failure. All that kind of stuff, resounds and rings and goes around your head. And it's like, oh, man, there's no getting out of this. That's okay.
You know what? As long as it's fun, there's no need to quit.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of what we do here is that at the end of the day, it's just a lot of fun to nostalgia is one thing, but also just to create these kind of connections. It's incredibly rewarding and worth it. Algorithm be damned, right?
I have that actually tattooed across my forehead.
I have it tattooed as well. I'm a little more discreet.
Okay. I can only imagine, but I need to not imagine, Dave, because you're
do not imagine.
It's becoming traumatic. Oh, buddy, it's so great to have you as a friend. We talk about the fun, and the fun is that we do have this mutual love, and even mostly for, and this is the term you use, mostly classic television.
Yeah.
Even though you do cover the whole gamut.
Sure, I want to leave my options open. If I want to talk about a movie at will or something, a musical thing, is some music in the genre there, I will. But it's mostly TV. Come on, we grew up with it, right? The one-eyed babysitter was always there for us, and That's where a lot of memories that, it's weird how a TV show can bring back memories that aren't necessarily about the show either, right?
Yeah.
Personal memories as you think about time spent with family members and that type of thing. It's weird how a TV show can be a catalyst to revive a memory that may have been long dormant within you.
Yeah. Well, let's face it, it was during our formative years too. So it's like, whoa, that girl in Lost in Space is hardly wearing anything. What's going on? What's that about?
I think Adam called them curious stirrings in his utility belt, right?
Perfect.
That's right. That Catwoman, curious stirrings.
Yeah, well, okay, I got to interject this. Please, for you prayers out there, I'm not one of you because I'm just a West Coast heathen, but my heart is full for all these people and I care about them much. And Julie Newmar is definitely struggling right now, financially and physically. She broke her leg in 3 places
Oh my goodness!
This past couple months, 3 places.
So I had not heard that she wasn't doing well. That's horrible.
Well, the thing about
she's in her 90s now.
I'm going to say probably early 90s.
Yeah.
So say something. Send a message upstairs for Julie Newmar. This is a really good person, and one of the, from what I understand, nicest women in show business.
Absolutely. Everything I've heard about her is just phenomenal in terms of, I think she's incredibly talented. She's my favorite Catwoman. But her life has not been behind the scenes. Her life has not always been an easy one. There's been tremendous sacrifice that she had to make in terms of caring for her son. And there's a lot of things that we don't think about when it comes to these stars that we think we know and love. And certainly it's heartbreaking to hear that she's having some struggles. It's those of us that live relatively normal, mundane lives. We get 401ks. There's things that are availed to us that a television star, a movie star, they don't have available to them. And it really requires a little bit of luck, I think, when it comes to people like Julie and other stars, that they hopefully have people around them that become trusted advisors that can really make sure that they put away enough for later on in life, because we didn't. I don't think many of us envisioned that. I think the era of living till into your late 80s, early 90s, I think it is upon us.
Yeah,
it's no longer 70s. People are living longer, and as a result, and this is the old finance guy in me, we have to prepare for that. Otherwise, it can be, especially you start thinking about medical costs at the end. It's just crazy how much that can bite into your budget and what you have socked away.
Yeah. Well, and promise we'll get right off this subject, folks, and back to the fun stuff. But while you're doing it, please remember my friend Hank Garrett, too, who I've had on the podcast twice and has become a close personal friend of mine. You would know him as the evil mailman in 3 Days of the Condor, as Sergeant Nicholson.
R-54, where are you?
Yeah, and a multitude of other things. And it was one of those, Dave, where his words, I wish to God we had met earlier in life, because there's just this thing as though we'd known each other forever. And it's the exact same sense of humor, the exact same everything. It's really weird and really great at the same time. Really great because he's so much older, and he said it. He said it. I wish we'd have met earlier in life, Pat, because we'd have had a great time. And so say one for him, too, because he's practically in the same boat as Julie, along with broken leg. Well, enough of this, Dave. We're gonna switch to a bright side.
Okay, let's do it.
Before people stop crying or fall asleep. Right.
Yeah.
I posed a couple questions to you. You did your homework, I would assume.
We're talking about TV shows for the various decades. Yeah.
You know, if I give this question to Barry King, he'll come up with like 10 per decade. So I have to definitely put a limit on it.
I got two. Are we going to go 50s through 80s, or what do you want to do? Okay, I got two per decade except for the 60s, and I just cannot. I absolutely have to go three.
And you know what's funny? I know exactly what it is. But
yeah, I mean, I couldn't eliminate any of those. So should we go? Should we talk about favorite TV shows of the decades?
Yeah, 1950s, Dave.
Easy. George Reeves, Phyllis Coates, later on Noel Neill, The Adventures of Superman, and then Leave It to Beaver. Both of those shows are, for me, I grew up watching The Adventures of Superman. We had when we got our first UHF TV station, Channel 20 here. It was the first time I got to see it, and I watched it nonstop and loved it. And I ended up buying a book about the show and just reading about it and really admiring the characters. Of course, the story of George Reeves and his all too short life is a fascinating one, subject to much speculation. But love that show. Love in particular the first season, which is feels a little more noir than the rest of the seasons. Where as time went on, it kind of became more of a kids show. It always was a kids show, but more of a kids show. And then Leave It to Beaver was one I actually encountered later on as through Nick at Night and in the 80s and 90s with just reruns on cable television. And what a great show. Wonderful actors. And I know you're good friends with Jerry Mathers. What a guy, right?
Oh, yes.
This is an era where you just admired not only the characters that these actors played, but the people that played them. And Hugh Beaumont, Barbara Billingsley, Tony, Jerry, they are just the best. And the show, we all wished we had a family like that. And, you know, my upbringing was a pretty darn good one, but that is what we all strove for. And just a wonderful way to spend. Again, you're talking about earlier on, I mentioned a respite right away from the world that we live in today. Leave It to Beaver sure is a fun one. And the creators of that show really had a talent for writing dialogue that sounded like something a kid might say. And it's just a fun show. And I think it really holds up. Right? I don't ever see an era or a time when Leave It to Beaver isn't a show that can't be enjoyed.
Well, and I've got the living proof. I mean, the concept of filming it from a child's perspective was something that I was not all that aware about until Jerry told me about it, and how intuitive that was for these creators. I mean, more powerful than a locomotive, to mention your previous mention, which I loved too. But yeah, it's my niece and nephew, or my grandniece and nephew, Jesus, that's how old I am, right, I guess they're 8 and 12, and they love The Beaver. I mean, just devour it. And that's now.
Yeah.
And soon as I told Jerry about that and his lovely wife, Teresa, boy, oh boy, I got all these gifts to give the kids, signed this, signed that. I mean,
that's awesome.
Not even asking for it. It's just like, okay, well, we're sending you a package, Pat.
That is too cool.
Oh, man. And that's just a few of the great stories I have about those people. But good choices, Dave. I concur.
Okay. Let's
move on to the 60s.
60s. Here's, because you know exactly one of the shows that I'm going to talk about. I know it's a show you love as well. But, and we've already talked a little bit about Batman, but Batman probably is my all-time favorite TV show. I still remember it was 68, so I was 4, just catching the tail end of the 3rd season when it was on primetime. So I remember watching 1 or 2 episodes, but I grew up, I was just a little guy when Batmania was in full effect, and I was Batman crazy. And so I loved that show as it eventually found its way into syndication and reruns in the 70s, and just really grew to love it until I hated it, right? It's the weirdest thing is that I loved it. And then as I got older and started really becoming a comic book fan, I looked back on that show with disdain and disgust. And it wasn't until after the resurgence of Batman in the late 80s, after Tim Burton's Batman movie, after Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns series, that I returned to Batman, the TV series, Batman 66, and realized how wonderful that show was.
If you could laugh along with them, or...
Right.
Because they were literally making fun of it, you know?
Yeah. What I discovered is that Batman is so iconic that there can be many different iterations of it. And a silly Batman is certainly one of them. And that's it's a wonderful, fun show. And of course, great guest stars, great villains. Speaking of Jillian Newmar, Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, Frank Gorshin. I mean, they were the best. So that's all-time favorite show. Got to meet Adam once. I know you met him as well. Just a heck of a nice feller. And the world's a worse place now that he's gone.
Oh, he was a dirty old man, Dave. There's no doubt about it.
Dirty old man from Walla Walla, Washington.
Hey, don't be looking at my wife like that, Batman. Oh, excuse me. That's Robin doing that. Never mind.
Number 2 would have to be the Andy Griffith Show. And that show is one of the reasons I love it so much is it was a favorite of my parents. And so I talk about those shared experiences, right, bringing up memories. And it's just a great show. But watching it with the family and reruns to this day, talking about it with my father. One of the last TV shows I watched with my mother as she became sicker and sicker. She had dementia. Was the Andy Griffith episode Citizen's Arrest. And she was at the point with her dementia when we sat down and watched that in her assisted living facility, where she was scared a lot, fearful a lot. And yet we sat there and watched Barney and Gomer go after each other on that episode. And I heard my mom laugh for the first time in a year or more. And the magic, right, that show has, it's timeless. It's why I think probably those first 5 seasons where it's in black and white, not to mention it has Don Knotts in it, but those first 5 seasons are just really magical, and it's a fun show.
Well, you know, as like you mentioned Batman, and we touched on Star Trek. Those are 2 shows that I've seen the episodes of a million times, and I just, I'll change it, you know, unless it's a real special one that I just absolutely love. I'm not going to watch that. Andy Griffith, however, it does not matter what episode it is.
Right. It doesn't. Yep.
Because it's just feel good.
Yeah. It's just comfy. It's like a comfy pair of pajamas. You know, you just slip into it and it doesn't matter how familiar it feels. It's still worth watching. So my last one is Star Trek, and I'm with you. There are episodes now that I kind of pick and choose the episodes. You mentioned, I know you did an episode of your one of your videos on Shore Leave. What a great episode that was. Sitting on the Edge of Forever is one of my favorites. There's a bunch. I think Star Trek, I think seasons 1 and 2 are fantastic. Season 3, they're not as good, but still it's the original series, right? And it's that cast elevated everything, or the material, regardless of the story. And, it's just, in the 70s, as I watched those episodes over and over in syndication, that was just it created, and I don't know how you felt, but it expanded my imagination of what was possible. And it created a love of science fiction and fantasy that I attribute so much to Star Trek and to creator Gene Roddenberry for just the world we're in now, where, I mean, you turn on TV and there's so much great science fiction and fantasy out there.
Yeah.
It all started with Star Trek.
It's true. Yeah, Sam, I agree. It was my comfort. When I was in Hollywood in my loneliest days, I could put on Star Trek and it would make me feel like I'm home. And that's the best way I could describe it. Home. And same way with Andy Griffith too. But Trek really did that for me. And it's probably because I don't know, that's maybe why I became such a rabid fan of the show. But so far we're in alignment, perfect alignment, Dave. Moving on to
the 70s, Happy Days. We got to go Happy Days. Just if I think about the shows that I loved during the 70s, Happy Days was it. I didn't realize it when I was watching it, but it tapped into a nostalgia for an earlier generation, right? Our parents were watching Happy Days and they were feeling nostalgic for the 50s the way we feel nostalgic for the 80s now. But I just loved it because of Ron Howard and the Fonz and the Anson, right? Donnie Most, and of course Aaron. It was a wonderful cast. And I'm drawing a blank on who played Marion. What was her name? Marion Ross?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cunningham and Tom Bosley. The entire cast was so phenomenal in those first few seasons of Happy Days. They were really great. My other 70s show was Three's Company.
Right.
And talk about a cream puff of a show, right? There's nothing really substantive there, and I feel even guilty lumping it in with in my all favorite shows list with Andy Griffith's show, because I think one is believe it or not, I think that the Andy Griffith Show is a very sophisticated comedy in its own way.
Oh, absolutely.
And there was a lot of thought that was put into the creation of the Andy Griffith Show. Three's Company, on the other hand, was a sitcom. It was every episode had a similar theme to it. It was derivative in that it was inspired from a British sitcom, right? Man About the House, I think is what it was called.
Right.
But what elevated it and why it was a favorite of mine was the cast again.
Yeah.
They took the material that they were given and they made it fun week after week. And
Ritter was a genius.
Right.
And he made that role ingenious. He carried the show, quite frankly.
He did. John Ritter had this amazing talent of making you feel like he was every man, right?
Right.
He was not this star, whatever he played, because he did some great, both movies and...
Sling Blade.
Yeah. He just really, the fact that we lost him so early is such a freaking shame. And I think, nowadays it's likely that if that had happened, he wouldn't be gone. But it was a time when they had a difficult time. I can't remember exactly what the heart situation, it was something with his heart, but it was something they did not recognize. And if they had, they could have potentially stopped it.
It hit them hard and fast.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But great show, a lot of fun. It's one of those things where it's something on my list. It's probably my guilty pleasure, but I'm okay with that. It's the fact that Don Knotts joined the show after the Ropers left to do their own show as Mr. Furley. And it is that supporting cast. You got Ritter surrounded by, and everybody talks about Joyce and Suzanne, but yet they were so good. But then Don Knotts came, and I love Furley. Furley's he's cut from the same cloth as Barney Fife, and just a lot of fun. So there's my 70s shows. All right.
Well, then I think we should boldly go where no one has gone before, into the 80s. I'm not trying to influence you or anything.
Yeah. So you know where this is going. The 70s were sitcoms for me. So we'll go back to drama and sci-fi for the 80s, which is a Knight Rider, mid-80s or early to mid-80s with Michael Knight and Kit roaming the it's essentially Batman without the silliness and the costumes, all that kind of stuff, because it's a guy in his amazing car.
Right.
I love that show. The Hoff, fantastic. He's kind of like Adam West in that he's just he's a character, and took the material he was given and ate it up. And then, of course, a lot of folks don't look at this show as an 80s show, but it debuted in what, 88 or 89?
Well, I don't know where you're going.
Yes. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Never heard of it.
It just, how could lightning strike twice? How could Gene Roddenberry do it again? He did.
Were you skeptical?
I was totally skeptical. And I wanted to give it a chance, obviously, because of being such a huge Star Trek fan, but with a completely different cast, I did not think that it could be as beloved as the original. And, the original always will be the original, but the cast, those stories, there's one, Inner Light. I mean, it's just one of my favorite. I can watch that over and over and over. Stewart's performance in that one, where he lives a lifetime on behalf of entire civilization.
That's right.
Yes. Oh, so good. I think his son's in that episode too, if I remember right. But so good. And it's made me realize that the talent of Roddenberry and that entire team to make that happen, because we've had some good other Star Treks that have come along, but nothing like that. They literally did lightning strike twice. They were able to recreate that sense of wonder, that sense of awe, everything that the original did. They were able to do it again with The Next Generation
and power it right up to the big screen too. I mean, that was the power of it right there.
Yeah. I
mean, I loved that show so much. Didn't expect to. And then it was just like, this is my water. Yeah. I have got to have Star Trek TNG. And I was at a fan event a couple years back, and they were all there. I got a picture with all of them, except for Patrick Stewart. But William Shatner took his place, so that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
But later that evening at the hotel bar, my wife and I are sitting and relaxing, and they come into the bar, and it's like, okay, Pat, and my wife's like, uh-oh, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. Boom, the geek boy just takes over my entire being, and I am like shaking in excitement that they're just 4 or 5 stools down from us. Brent Spiner, Crosby, Crusher. Oh, what's her name? Sorry. Somebody's going to go, Pat, don't you know Crusher's?
Oh, wow.
I hear people make this mistake on podcasts all the time, and I'm like yelling at it. Don't you know it's Gates McFadden, you dummy?
Gates McFadden. We do know it, but it happens to all of us when we're on these, whether we're doing a live stream or a podcast, right? You just get these momentary brain cramps.
Yeah, but I got through that one. The cool thing, though, was that I have mutual friends via General Hospital with Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah.
And when he walked by...
Is he still married to Jeannie?
Yeah. And when he walked by, I'm just like, oh, God, here he goes. I worked with your wife, is what I said. Now that's pushing it. And he stops and goes, you did what with my wife? And I was like, I worked with her on this show. I'm friends with Wally Kurth, who's, of course, my bandmate.
Sure.
And he goes, Waldo, Waldo. And next thing I know, he's sitting, the others go to their table, and Frakes comes and joins my wife and I.
How cool is that?
And talks with us and talks about the show and talks about mutual friends, and just the warmest, kindest guy. Took a picture with me, and it was that fan meeting. When he walked away, Dave, I started bawling.
Yeah.
I lost it. And my wife is like, kind of get it. The bartender's looking at me like I'm some kind of dork. But I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, just tears of being such a fan of that show, meeting the main character of that show, and having that main character be genuinely interested in me was just, it was one of the most emotional fan experiences and celebrity experiences, and I've had a lot that I've ever had. And it just goes to show how much I agree with you on that pick there, Dave.
Right. And it just goes to show how, what I'm hearing from you is that, I think there's a fear that when you meet these folks that you've admired and you see that there's this chance that they might demonstrate some traits or some behaviors that are less admirable. And it's that be careful what you wish for. You just never know once you actually have a conversation with them. And so when you do, and you discover that they are wonderful, they're approachable, that they genuinely are human beings, it is a sense of, I can totally understand why you're walking in the clouds. You're floating in the clouds, my friend, and you probably felt a sense of relief too. Oh, he is cool. I knew it. I knew I was right.
Right, exactly. And let's face it. This is it's an art, so they're artists, and so with that you get quirkiness, and I mean you get literally walls that aren't even there put up around Brent Spiner. I mean stuff where they just suddenly don't feel approachable whatsoever, Brent Spiner. And I just kind of, it's like, credit to him. He did stop and say hello and shake hands with me.
Well, and I was going to say, when it comes to those walls, unfortunately, in the world we live in, they have to exist.
Well, and it's true. And he is such an expert. Oh my gosh. I don't want to go into how precise he was putting up the don't approach zone around him by carrying on a conversation with someone that he's with that doesn't even know who he is. Because I'm deep in conversation. Don't approach me. I'm talking to somebody that doesn't know me because they're just my handler and they're probably 16, but I'm busy. So it was like, wow. So the dynamic is so different. And he is, let's face it, he is such a genius. And and so it didn't surprise me whatsoever to see that he had that more, certainly not standoffish, but not as approachable as when Frakes walked by and just flashed this huge warm smile as soon as I mentioned Wally Kurth. And it was like, I'm in there. So, God, yeah. What wonderful memories we got, huh, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The temptation is to say that they don't make them like they used to. And to a certain extent, that's true. But I would tell folks that there's lots of good stuff out there now, too. And the third season of Picard was pretty darn fantastic. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. But what a delight if you're a next generation fan.
Yeah, that's true. And thank goodness I have kids that are like me who keep me up to date on all the new stuff. And it's like, wow, there is some quality stuff out there.
There really is. There's a continued passing of the baton in regards of creativity. And it's just great to see a new generation out there making quality entertainment that, who knows, 30, 40 years from now, other folks will be waxing nostalgic about.
Well, and thank God that we have the brotherhood and the opportunity to accentuate or give life to it in our own way.
Yeah,
and share the knowledge of it with other people. And for some reason, they like to hear what you say. Not so much me, but that's just par for the course.
Well, we've already determined the algorithm just hates you.
It's true. Well, Brother Dave, you've given me enough of your time today, and it has been an extreme pleasure. No surprise there.
It's always a pleasure to visit with you, Pat. You're one of the good ones.
Oh well. obviously sufficiently fooled you. And so there we go with that slam dunk. Brother Dave Sundstrom, let's say that there might be one, maybe two people who are listening to this who have not heard of you. Tell them where they can find you, Dave.
Well, I'm just going to tell them to go look for me in one place, and that's YouTube. And, it's Dave Sundstrom, Sundstrom. Track me down. And if you, click on a video or two, why not? And if you like them, definitely would encourage you to subscribe to the channel.
There's not a bad one in the lot, and there is a lot. So, yes, I concur. Do that, folks. Well, there you go, Dave. The first of the Retro Pal episodes complete.
Woo-hoo! I can't wait to listen to the other two. I'm really excited for these, Pat. They're going to be so much fun.
Yeah, no, these guys are so great. And then hopefully that'll revitalize our opportunity to get back together all at once. And we'll do that, I'm sure. And I'll remember how to work all my gear to do that as well. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave. There you have it, another Retro TV Radio podcast in the books. You can easily find Dave Sundstrom on most popular social media forums, but I highly recommend you start with his YouTube channel, which of course you should support by subscribing and adding a big thumbs up. You'll find the link to his channel in this episode description, and note that Dave's last name is spelled Sundstrom. This was the first of 3 Retropalooza interviews, which will also include my Retro Pals Barry King from the BK on the Air radio show and Bob Thrash Pondo Pons, yet another powerhouse of knowledge and entertainment. You can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Golden Rage of TV and on X at Golden Rage of TV1. This is your host, Pat McCormick, and thanks again for listening to Retro TV Radio.